Hey everyone, welcome back to Skiff Talk. Captain Connor Bryant, Tidal Waters Guide Service. Today's a very special episode. We have two Floyd Skiffs behind me. We have the Floyd 7-weight and we have a Floyd 10-weight. The 10-weight belongs to Captain Bryant Wilson, Slackwater Expedition Guide Service. Bryant got to fish Mr. Ken Baldwin of the Men's Journal. Ken writes the fly fishing articles, and he's writing an article on Floyd Skiffs right now. So they got to spend the day together, check out the performance on the 7-weight, see how it handles, poles, and fishes. Captain Bryant, I know you've been with Floyd for a while. The 10-weight is your skiff.
Yep.
Now that you've ran the 7 and the 10, let's talk a little bit about Floyd.
Sure. So I've had this boat for about 3 years now, just under 3 years. I was actually in the process of getting involved in a new build with Hells Bay at that point, and I had a pretty long backlog, and I'd been looking at these boats for a while. Floyd's really been in business about 5 to 6 solid years now. That's it. So they're a fairly new company. And I liked what I had seen on these boats, and I was hearing a lot of good reviews from people about them, and I kind of just pulled the trigger on my new build and decided to go with this Floyd when it came up, and haven't looked back and loved every minute of it. So yeah, this is the 10, as you were saying here. This is the 7. This is the smallest of their models. They have another model here as well that we do not have, and that's the 8-weight. So maybe we can do a piece at some point on that one and get a shot with them. But Floyd is built down in Edgewater, Florida. Brian and Heidi Floyd, a small family-owned company, wonderful people. Definitely become like family to me. They're just solid individuals, Got any questions, you call them up and they're on the phone immediately. It's not like dealing with the big guys out there, but they're wonderful skiffs. They handle the water very well. They also pole very well, and I mean, I've been on a lot of different skiffs, Mavericks, Hells Bay, Dolphin, KO, East Cape, all their models. And I have to say, I mean, obviously I'm a little partial, but these are some of the driest boats that I've ever been on. And I can't say enough good things about them.
It's impressive whenever you think Floyd has only been in business for 5 or 6 years.
Really, I mean, 5 technically. The kind of the idea of this came around from Brian, and I think really Floyd, kind of the conception of Floyd started about 7 years ago with Brian and Chris Morejohn, who a lot of people will be familiar with. He's a very famous hull designer in skiffs. He's designed a lot of the Hells Bays and a handful of boats for a few other companies as well. But so production-wise now, 2019 really is kind of when they rolled out. So definitely fairly new.
So what's impressive is when you bring up in conversation Hells Bay, Maverick, Chitham, any of these big manufacturers that a lot of these guides are running, Floyd is always brought up as well as same quality, and you just never hear anything bad about them.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a testament to Brian Floyd and his experience in this industry. He's been in boat building and design for ages. I mean, he was working for Hells Bay back in the 90s. A lot of people know Brian as kind of the master rigger. He brought incredible rigging to Hells Bay. A lot of people, he's very renowned for how good he is with all that wiring and rigging. But he worked for Hells Bay 2 times, and then Brian and Tom Gordon actually opened Isla Marine down in the Keys together, if you guys are familiar with that. But Brian was with Isla Marine, I believe, from 2010 to 2019 was really when he left there. But during that time, they had the opportunity to work on so many different skiffs, Chithams, Hells Bay, Maverick, did a lot of repair work, wiring, total overhauls of boats and things. So he had the opportunity to really see the ins and outs of all the different hulls out there, the designs, flaws, what worked, what didn't work. And I think he was kind of able to culminate all that together when they came up with the design for this hull originally, the 10-weight. I'm impressed with these skiffs and what they're capable of.
So having been able to spend some time on the 7-weight and the 10-weight in the Charleston area, what's your opinion on each platform? Where do they shine the best?
So this guy right here is kind of their bare bones, minimalistic model. It's been so much fun to have this boat. I've had this boat for about a month now, running it and demoing it for them. And I'll have it for about another week and a half until we go down and meet up at the Cobia Fly Invitational in Beaufort. As far as the skiffs go, like I said, this is their bare bones, minimalistic design. This is their flagship boat. This is the very first one that they came out with. Hull-wise, if you take a look at the front, both of these boats are essentially built off the same exact blueprint. If you take a look at the hulls, you can see the sharp bow entry that these guys have, which is what they're really known for. I mean, they handle the rough chop so well while still remaining shallow and very, very true on the pole. That boat right there, I can pole all day in 5 inches of water. It's rated as a 5.5-inch boat. That's with a full tank, 15-gallon gas tank, motor, and 2 to 3 guys on that boat. So
that's impressive.
It's very impressive, and I've poled it everywhere, and it is realistically a 5-inch boat, I would say, all day long. This guy right here is going to draft a little bit more, being just that it's a larger platform. This boat, it's sighted at 7 to 8 inches of draft. But I can personally attest that when I have that gas tank filled and I have 2 anglers on the front of that boat and I'm poling, I get through 7 inches all day. Now that's not phenomenal in today's world of micro skiffs, you know, where guys are getting 4 or 5 inches, but that's not what this boat's designed for. You know, this boat is built to be an all-around machine that can handle the big open water while still getting skinny and technical enough, you know, to get it done. As far as the hulls go, I veered off a little bit on that. The hulls are based on the same exact design. The only difference really in this boat, along with the 8-weight, which is their other model that we don't have out here, and I've run that one too and poled that one, is that the freeboard has been cut down on the hull here. If you see how much higher your freeboard is on this, especially if you look at the spray rails here, you can really see the depth here. So the 7 and the 8, they drop them down, which eliminates some weight. And what happens there is, because you're dropping that cap down, it is going to slightly reduce the beam line, and it's going to reduce the length just a hair. The 8 is going to have a full cap, just like this guy. 22-gallon gas tank in both the 10 and the 8. And you've got full storage in the back of the 8, along with this platform, which I'm a huge fan of. They put this on the 10 and the 8. It's got the step up. At first, I didn't think I'd like it, but man, I got to tell you, it's a game changer. Instead of crawling up the side of these things, being able to just hop right up. Doubles as a nice seat too. You're ever hanging out, but plenty of storage in these guys. Big wide. Now y'all don't judge me for the inside of my boat, okay? I need to clean up a little bit. This thing gets run way too much. Big live well, very big live well. So, I mean, I fish for tarpon in this boat, and when the conditions aren't conducive for throwing flies or artificial, that live well will handle a pile of menhaden or pogies with no problem. Keeps them aerated, does a great job. This, of course, you've got the center console, full center console, cooler seat up front, big cooler seat. So for me, as a full-time guide, I love fishing that bare bones machine there, but I kind of need the storage and the room to handle clients and such.
And this is something we've touched on almost every episode, is that access hatch underneath your console too, and how great those things are for just getting to your rigging and everything else.
Take a look in there. No trash in there, is there? But yeah, you can see Ryan's got he does some don't judge this. I put in a new, some new stuff right there, and I did not wire my stuff quite as pretty as Brian's, which you can see from the other side is very impressive. But yeah, it's a nice big console. And he can do any of these with a side console too. You don't have to get a center console in the 8 or the 10, so you do have that option. One cool thing about the 8 and the 10 is that they actually have a anchor hatch. Again, don't judge my boat, it's a little dirty. I had to touch up a little gel coat on there because somebody dropped an anchor on the edge of that. Cracked it for me, which was nice, but that's a conversation for another time. And then you've got a large storage hatch up front on your bow, so
all the way forward.
A lot of room. Yeah, it's pretty insane. I mean, you could definitely fit a belligerent client under there if they were pissing you off too much. You know, just lock them up, take them on back. So kind of diving back into some more of the specs here, if anybody's interested. Both boats, all 3 boats really, this one, the 7 and the 8, which we don't have here to show off, are built around the same hull mold. So your bottom's gonna be the same, your entry is gonna be the same, your waterline beam is gonna be the same on all of them, pad in the back is gonna be the same, basically identical from the water up to the top of the cap. This one with the higher freeboard is going to have a beam of 75.5 inches. Waterline beam on this is 56.5. Same thing for the 7, same thing for the 8. Your cap beam on this guy and on the 8 are only going to be 72 inches, so a little narrower. And this boat comes in at 17 feet and 10 inches. That one's 18. So you lose a little bit of width on the top and a hair of length on this, and that's simply just because that freeboard is chopped down a little bit. The 60s on this one, short shaft, 15 inch versus your standard 20 inch on most of your motors. This is a bigger gearbox on this boat, and I have it so I can run a 4-blade prop because I do have a tunnel hull, as you can see. And that is an option on the 8s or the 10 weights if you're doing a build with them. Now, the standard 10 and 8 is gonna have a flat pad on the back. It's gonna look just like this guy right here. Same transom on it. And you've got a flat pad that runs 15 inches wide and about 8 feet down the bottom of the boat. And an outboard dead rise of about 5 degrees off of that pad. So yeah, options there. If you want to get a tunnel, you can do it. So guys down in Texas, West Florida, any of the places that like to run tunnels, you got the option. Otherwise, you're going with the standard.
So on your 7, one thing that's cool about the 7 that I've noticed is your bulkhead access compared to some of these other that have just a closed bulkhead on your bow. So being able to open it up, access into there, and then when you're not using the boat, it can air out. Yeah. So there's no swelling or anything like that. That's something that was one of the first things when I saw this boat that I thought was really unique and a great idea. And your fuel tank, everything, you can access it there. So that's one of my favorite features on this boat is that, and also your step up as well. Sure.
Yeah, that thing's nice. And it actually doubles as if you're up here, whether you got a platform or not, with a little bit shallower bow area here, this kind of doubles as a stripping area. So you can just strip your line right down into the cockpit. You don't really have to worry about mats and stripping buckets most of the time because you are close to that. Got the other hatch back here. Decent amount of room up under there, your bilge in the back. You fit a fair amount of stuff in there. Now, Brian is doing an option with this boat where you can get a guide box, which is essentially a seat, a cooler seat, if you will, or a storage seat. It's gonna be like a coffin box, a guide coffin box, and it'll fit right in here. And he has that form fitted to the concave in the floor of this, so it was set right in. Obviously you can put backrest on them or whatever, and then you got more seating right here ahead.
But
what's that?
This is a great representation of the space on this boat, though, for it to still be the idea of a bare bones, simple skiff. This is a 45 quart cooler.
Yeah.
And you can still walk in your cockpit on both sides. And then, of course, definitely you could walk on your gunnels on both sides. So that is one thing that's really cool, too, about this boat is there's a ton of room.
There is. And you still got nice wide gunnels. If you notice, especially if you look up toward the front, they taper a little bit towards the back, but I mean, you can dance around these things. So you'll notice that this boat, to shave weight, lacks a false floor. This is the bottom of the hull. As you can see with the concave there, solid as a rock too. In your 10 or in your 8, you're gonna have a false floor that comes out over these. So you have a nice flat walking area. It's really personal preference. This is kind of the essence of his bare bones fishing machine, if you will. That's bells and whistles, storage, all that good stuff. So, and you've got an option. And if you want to go with a little smaller profile like this, the lower freeboard versus the big 10, you can of course do this in the 8-weight model, which is going to be identical everywhere, except you're going to have a bigger cap, hatches, and storage in your aft. So
now on the 7-weight, does he offer this in a center tiller and side console?
Yes.
Okay.
So you've got options.
Awesome. I love also his rod holders are going backwards, so your angler can grab a rod and keep on going, and there's no moving stuff around the boat and dropping Yetis all over the place and kicking beers over to get another rod.
I really like these rod holders a lot. I mean, they hold the rods nice and secure, and they're going backwards. You can store 6 rods in here. On the 10, I've got 3 rod holders forward and 2 aft under each gunnel. So, I mean, you could put I can put 4 fly rods on both sides of this thing, no problem.
Yeah, that's a ton of rods.
Hole left. I mean, I suppose you could probably get 5 in there if you really wanted to. I wouldn't pack them in too tight like that, but yeah, it's pretty impressive, the rod storage in these.
So this boat being super light with the 70 on it, what kind of speeds are you seeing?
This girl moves for sure. You could absolutely run a 60 on this boat just fine with plenty of speed. With this 70, I'm getting about 41 out of this guy.
Yeah, scooting.
So it scoots, If you want to lighten up the stern a little bit, obviously you could go with a smaller motor. 50 or a 60, those are going to be the same size cowling. So if I was doing that, I'd probably go with the 60 for a little bit more power, but that's personal preference depending on what someone's doing or budget, or I'm sure a million exceptions. But yeah, he can build them however you want. This is rated for up to a 70. This is going to be the max you want to put on this, whereas this guy will handle a 90.
Okay.
But I can tell you, if that thing scoots with that motor on it,
I bet. And I really like the simplicity of the console, that side console.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like the height of it. I mean, it really feels about perfect when you're sitting there. Not too high. You see some consoles where they're real low and you're almost kind of bent down and
driving between your knees.
Yeah, and that one's comfortable. It's not too high. And I guess that's another thing that's personal preference as well. I do have a small little live well in the back here too, which I didn't show. It's a little guy, but not that most people using this boat are probably going to be utilizing much live bait, but if you want to, there you go.
So Ken, being able to spend the day fishing with Captain Bryant on the 7-weight, what are some things that stood out to you about this boat?
I'm not real knowledgeable in the technical information and the specs. I think I'm going to represent the person who, I'm new to it, and a lot of the terminology you use, I'm like, I heard you, but I don't know what you're talking about, right? But I can tell you what I experienced. One is, he calls it minimalist or bare bones. It's just a simple design that's real functional, and I like it. I like the open space. I've been on a lot of boats. I like the freedom of movement. I don't feel cluttered in here to get from there to there. And especially when you're out and there's some chop and stuff, I like that I feel solid when I'm standing and there's very little wobble. So And I like how you can probably custom it to yourself because there's a lot of room here. So I noticed that right away in getting in it. And then when we were out there, some waves came up and I was expecting to be slammed, okay? Didn't happen. It cut through waves really nice and which kind of surprised me because I was anticipating like, here we go, hold on. It just cut through these waves and we didn't get wet. Thought we were gonna get wet. The water dissipated to the side. And I said, okay, this is nice. This is solid, and it feels solid. That's another one that surprised me. When you're out there, there was no flimsy feeling to it. The whole thing feels tight. So that it just, again, without a lot of technical knowledge, it feels quality, and that I can tell. I've been in other boats, they didn't feel so quality. This one feels quality. And then he started taking it in and out around the oysters and into the creeks and stuff, and the thing just handled. Just zipped around and stuff, and he hit some high speed. So I was really impressed. Sometimes I think, well, maybe I want to get an 8-weight because of the storage, but I don't know. I like the idea that they're gonna have this custom piece that you can put in the middle that have storage and a place to sit and everything. I like that. And one more thing, and I never said anything. When you buy something for the first time, you don't know a whole lot. A lot of companies sell boats. They all sell boats. A lot of times they're interchangeable and whatever. What separates, I think, one company from the other, if the widgets are the same, is the back-end customer service. The customer service you get after you buy it. And I keep hearing about this Bryant guy who, his company, they care, it's small, haven't gotten too big, they'll take care of you. If you have problems, you can let them know and stuff like that. And so someone who buys something for the first time, you have a lot of questions. And I've had the experience of once I buy something, they're gone. It's like, okay, now what? I've got a question. And it might be a real basic question, but I don't know. And the feeling I get is, no, they have customer service. So you buy it, they know you can talk to them. And I think that counts for a lot.